Did you see the latest Nintendo newsletter?
Whoa, nice graphics. I'd like to get my hands on that game.
You mean you haven't played it yet? We can play it on my Nintendo Entertainment System. It's the Legend of Zelda, and it's really rad. Those creatures from Ganon are pretty bad. Octoroks, Tektites, Levers too. But with your help, our hero pulls through.
The Legend of Zelda, what a game, and even more so, what a series! To say The Legend of Zelda has had a small impact on gaming is possibly the most underselling statement you can possibly make when it comes to video games. This series has had a profound effect on both me as a person and the gaming industry as a whole. And with it being the series' 35th anniversary this year, I decided that I'm going to try and do something a little bit crazy. I want to do a whole series of videos based on just a few of the games in the series. These will include Zelda 1, of course, A Link to the Past, Ocarina of Time, Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, Breath of the Wild, and then finally Breath of the Wild 2 if that manages to come out during this year. Now, I actually did do a Majora's Mask review / retrospective already for this channel, and you could consider that a kickoff to these videos, and I'll link that down below in the description. I would love it if you check that out after this one. Anyways, with all that gobbledygook out of the way, this is Vincent here at Just Gaming, and let's begin where it all started, The Legend of Zelda on NES / Famicom. Development for this game began back in 1984 with Shigeru Miyamoto and Takashi Tezuka as the director and writer respectively. This was intended to be a launch title in the Japan exclusive console, the Famicom. This was also created side by side along with Super Mario Bros., some other, some small game that you probably never heard of. The two games actually were built with completely different mindsets however. Mario was made as a fast, linear, get to the goal type of playstyle, while Zelda was made with the complete opposite mindset. It was made to be a much slower, non-linear, and pure exploration-based focus as you could possibly get. This was a pretty new playstyle for gameplay back then, and Miyamoto was actually worried that it would be too difficult for gamers at the time. At one point during development, you were even supposed to have the sword already in your inventory at the start of the game rather than have to go talk to the old man first. But of course, in the released game, it wasn't. This was because he wanted players to get into the mindset of exploring around the map and finding secrets. The exploration of the game would go on to become a standard in the series. Miyamoto actually based this game around his experiences as a kid wandering the caves, woods, and surrounding area of Kyoto. He said that, when I was a child, I went hiking and found a lake. It was quite a surprise for me to stumble upon it. When I traveled around the country without a map, trying to find my way, stumbling on amazing things as I went, I realized how it felt to go on an adventure like this. I find it really cool that he was able to put that kind of feeling into a video game. The game was then released as a launch title for the Famicom in Japan on February 21st, 1986. Then later in the States on July 14th, 1987. It released to very high positive acclaim from most critics and gamers, and to this day still gets relatively high praise from both. Alright, time for the meat and potatoes of any gaming review / retrospective, the gameplay, and in all honesty, it's pretty simple. You have 9 temples you can go into and defeat the bosses. The first 8 have you trying to collect the Triforce of Wisdom. Now, why not Courage? That is Link's Triforce piece after all. Well, the Triforce of Courage just didn't even exist in the first game. You kinda just have to go with the name Triforce, even though there were only 2 pieces. Anyways, after that, you go to the 9th and final temple to defeat Ganon in all of his beastly glory. But let's go ahead and talk about the overworld map first. Basically, the map sits as an 8x16 grid and you move around it square by square. You would think that moving between squares would get tedious after a while because the game has to keep essentially loading it every time. But it really isn't because of just how dang quickly it goes. You can see where you are in the upper corner here, and unfortunately this does lead me to one of my criticisms, albeit small, about the game. The map is honestly pretty useless. Like, I wish it would fill itself out as you went to new squares like how the Oracle games did or Link's Awakening, but I don't know, maybe I'm just asking too much from the NES's little hardware. Anyways, for what you can do in the overworld map is explore, plain and simple. Just pure exploration. This is where a lot of the fun from the game comes from. Just burning a bush and finding that it reveals a brand new staircase that you've never seen before. Or bombing a wall that has some guy giving you a couple extra rupees is just a great feeling. I will say, a lot of people do criticize the game for being too cryptic, and honestly, I get it. I would not recommend playing this game without a map on standby. Just pretend like you have Nintendo Power and bought the magazine. It's basically the same thing, just, modernized. Because it can be very cryptic as to where you need to burn the bush or bomb that wall, since there is little to no indication from most spots that you can do that with. Occasionally, there is a little old man that maybe will give you a hint, but even the hints are vague at best. At least to me they are. I find it wild that people were able to both A, figure out this stuff on their own, and B, had the time to figure this stuff out on their own, because without a map, you're gonna spend a lot of time just randomly burning said bushes, and we sadly just don't have that kind of time anymore as adults. Now, I'm sure it sounds like I'm going really hard into this game and I actually don't like it, but I don't mean for it to, because I actually really do like this game. It's just so fun with its simplicity. I love that it starts you off with nothing in your inventory and you see this cave just right up in front of you. This sparks your curiosity and makes you want to go inside of it, and boom, you got your first weapon, the sword. That alone sparks in your mind, okay, so I should really go out of my way to find every cave and explore every nook and cranny that I can find to get more stuff. This is exactly what Miyamoto wanted, and man does it work to such a great effect. The secrets you can find are usually helpful, minus a few occasions where enemies will actually take your rupees, so do be careful. Now, what about inside the actual dungeons? Well, they're actually really well done in my opinion. Yeah, they got the occasional cryptic bombable walls. Again, have those maps on standby, trust me, just do it. But they're still great to me. They are the right amount of challenge and reward to complete outside of getting the Triforce pieces. You can also find a new item in every dungeon, including the final one. These can all be used both inside and out of the temples to great effect. Now, there are dangerous enemies in them, particularly the Wizrobes and Dark Knights, enemies that are now Zelda staples. These guys can absolutely mess you up. It's wild how much damage they can do. This does lead into a criticism / at least common thing that people have to say about this game, its difficulty. Some people think it's either too hard or at least brutally hard. I even know someone who says that it's borderline unfair, and no, I just don't get it. Like, yeah, okay, yes, it is a challenging game, I will say that, but people act like it's just impossible, and it's really just not. This kind of goes without saying in a Zelda game, but just get every heart container that you possibly can. Also, before going into dungeons, get a red potion. Grinding for the rubies to get them can be a little bit of a pain, but very doable. And don't forget about your bombs. Bombs can hurt enemies, and they work great against both Wizrobes and the Dark Knights. Now, you might even have to visit a dungeon a few times, each time you get a little bit further. Like for me, I had to visit the final dungeon at 3 different times before I finally made it all the way to the end, but it is very doable. You just gotta be careful. Being careful and patient are the 2 key things with this game. Yes, it's challenging, but again, not impossible. You can do it. I believe in you. Finally, speaking of items, you can get an array of useful stuff, including the boomerang, bombs, magic rod, raft, and more. All of these are useful during your adventure. Just don't be a dum-dum like me and forget that the flute can actually be used to warp around the overworld. You would definitely save a lot of time that way that I definitely wasted. And grind up those rubies. There's an armor upgrade that costs 255 rubies, aka the most that you can hold in the game, but it is immensely helpful with survival. But I think I've covered everything here, so let's go ahead and move on to the next section. This is going to be a pretty short section, I believe, so let's just get into it. The music in the game is highly renowned and is still being played by millions today via covers and rips and even full orchestras. You can't go more than a few scrolls down on YouTube without getting covers by tons of different people for the music. The score was done by the legendary Koji Kondo, who also did the score for Super Mario Bros. The main theme was made in just one night after copyright issues came up with the original theme. Oh, I'm going to screw up this pronunciation. It was going to be Maurice Ravel's Bolero, but copyright hadn't passed yet, so he had to quickly come up with something new, and the now famous tune was born. It was a hard night's work, but I think that the results paid off for him. The overworld theme is the one you hear the most in the game, and thank God it's a great theme, or else it would have gotten pretty dang old pretty dang fast. It gives you a sense of adventure that makes you want to go and burn everything you see until you find that one secret passageway. It's all real good stuff. In conclusion, this is honestly probably one of the most important games to have ever been released, and we are still feeling the influences of it even today. But now, is it worth even playing these days? To me, absolutely yes. Just like I said, got that map on standby. You gotta have that map, I'm telling you. And yes, the game can be difficult at times, but as mentioned, I feel like it isn't as hard as some people say, so don't let them detract you from trying this. But if you are still worried, it is on Nintendo Switch Online. You got save states there, and with those, you legitimately have nothing to worry about. So please, if you can play this, do it. You'll have a really great time. And finally, we are at the end of my first video in this little anniversary series. I really hoped you like it. I tried on this one. Just so hard. So please, if you like it, then give it a like and comment what you thought about the first Zelda game. Did you like it? Did you not like it? Let me know. I did stream this game on my Twitch, Vincent__R, and we had a great time over there. We would love to see you come by for more Zelda goodness. Anyways, come back here later on for A Link to the Past. It just so happens that that game's also having its own 30th anniversary too. So that's going to be a fun video. Now subscribe to Just Gaming so the way you can see that video and other dope content. See you later. Bye-bye.